This
Wait, what?
conference will now be recorded.
Was you joking when you said it was snowing?
No, it's snowing right now.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah, usually
Where-
by this time here in the middle of Nevada, it's mid 80s pretty consistently, but not this year.
Yeah, we're in the 80s and we're in Ohio. It's like miserable.
Yeah. Oh, I can bet with all the humidity, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, if you notice, Brian, something's missing from me.
I see that. We hardly recognize you.
The beard.
Oh, it is trimmed up a little bit. Just
A
standing
little
close
bit.
to a grinder.
The beard, the hair, it's all gone.
Yeah.
My wife
Dude.
My wife came home last night and looked at me and she says, "Okay, that's just creepy."
Yeah. You better be glad she didn't shoot you. She might have thought there would be an intruder in the house.
No, this is the me that this is the me that she likes. She hates the other me.
Okay. All right. Dude, Robert, I like your video.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Meant every word of it. So I've been meaning to do that for a month, but things have been just kind of crazy. So
Yeah, the hinge thing on the back's not a bad idea, and the thumb screws, or even if you took that off and got some of that roll, that magnet on a roll, and cut a little
Right.
piece out and set across it when you weren't using it, that'd be a, one option if there doesn't come a retrofit. But see, a lot of people just leave it out. But I guess that would introduce some air from the back there and maybe counterintuitive.
yeah, I've tried that, Brian, and the it just doesn't work as well when you've got that opening in the back.
Hmm.
And especially if you're cutting anything stinky like acrylic or anything like that, it just is. I've tried it because you got to get the wrench in there and take those 6 screws out, and then you got to have a place to put that door and those kind of things. And it'd be great if they could just, like you say, make the thumb screws, unscrew those. You don't need any tools. Drop that door down and out of the way. They've got room to do it, I think.
Yeah,
And,
or maybe you add some magnets to it so you could take out a few thumb screws and it would still, once you
Right.
get there, you could pop it on and off and have a magnet system or
Right.
something, or
Yeah.
whatever, a hinge, whatever. But yeah, and also about the catch trays. They're sending you a set, right? But the retrofit kits, you're going to have to take the front door off, if I understand
Yeah.
that correctly.
Yeah, that's what they said, that that the retrofit kit was gonna, which is no big deal. I mean, I get in there maybe once a week. So, and
Yeah.
you've got the little lever on the left-hand side. It makes it a piece of cake to take off. So it's not that big a deal.
Hmm.
And then the new ones, they were saying, Amy came back and confirmed that they've got all the parts, and it's just a matter of starting to put them in, I guess. So
Yeah, she said what container they were hoping that they would start introducing that. I don't remember which one it was offhand, but
oh, good. Okay.
yeah.
Well, it sounds like they're getting close, so that's good.
Yeah, yeah, and we did reach out and ask some confirmation about the fibers. We know that we could say, yeah, we've got them, but until we see some, I don't
Right.
want it. So hopefully they'll let us know about where they're at in the getting them out the door. So they
Sure.
may be just sitting there on a container because they're really moving a bunch of machines.
Oh, I can only imagine.
So yeah.
Well, that's good. Yeah, it's so nice to just be able to talk to the guys that are making it, and it seems like they're always very open to suggestions and appreciate it. So
Oh, I told them about the 2 screws in that upper right door. It mentions it vaguely in the manual, but it's kind of obscure about
Right.
that you have to take those 2 screws out, and that's for the FDA certification. We're required to put that there for that certification to be able to
Oh.
sell them.
gotcha.
So that's why they're there. But once you once you get there and take them out, they're fine. But they're going to start putting a sticker on the machine to identify that.
That's
And
perfect. Yep, that's great. Even just a sticker on the outside saying, hey, there's
Yeah.
a screw on the other end. Let's take it out. That would be perfect.
and I'll bold it and maybe put a picture or something, in the manual so it'll stick out in there too.
Yeah, that'd be good.
All right. Well, anybody got any questions?
No. Plus two, after I told my wife about us doing that live setup,
Mhm.
she told me I needed to shave the beard. She said because she didn't want She said I look like crap.
Oh, I gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah, you don't. She don't want you to break the camera, I guess.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know how I keep from breaking them, but hey, Hardeep, how are
Hi,
you?
good afternoon. Fine, thanks. Exciting day today because I just got the letter from the shipping people in Vancouver. My container is coming directly from China.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm in Canada, I guess, and it's in Vancouver. So looking forward to getting it.
Good, good. All right. Did you have any other questions or anything while we've got you on here?
Well, I'm watching and learning from you guys. So,
Okay, awesome. Well, if you have anything at all, just jump right in.
yeah,
Hey, Brian, this is Chris. How are you doing?
Hey, buddy.
So I watched your video on how to do transfers from the sending an SD file or SD to file, inserting it by thumb drive.
Right. Yeah, the RD file.
Yep. So my question is, so I have Lightburn on my laptop. The laser is at my fab shop.
hmm
So do the settings, where do the settings, so you know you get that brass little plate, right? With the numbers on it.
Right.
When you import that, are those settings in, do those, because last week I had a phone call with you saying my settings were gone and I was so out of focus to get the stuff that I needed. So we put that numbers back in there and everything came out fine. But if I make those items as an RD file, how do those settings get in there?
The
Or
settings.
does that
the-
not matter because they're already built into the controller?
No, they're not built into the controller. Those settings reside in Lightburn, and it's per device. So when you send a job out, when you save as an RD file, you're sending in the raw format. So those calculations for the scanning offset adjustments have been made as long as you created and exported that file in a device that had those settings, entered and turned on.
Okay, so in my Lightburn, those settings aren't in there.
Well, then you'll have to put them in there. And then after that, those settings will, every time you save a file from then on out, those compensation adjustments will already be in that raw output.
So I go into settings and where's that thing again in Lightburn? It's underneath settings.
Yeah, it's the wrench, the
Oh, the
wrench and
wrench.
screwdriver.
Yep.
hmm
So
Yeah.
I need to put that information in my laptop computer. That way, when I send the RD file, it's correct.
Correct.
All right. And then that RD file will have all the parameters in there, so everything should be able to carry over.
That RD file is the native language of the controller. So it's all just commands. So everything that you tell Lightburn to do will be contained in that file.
Got it. And then, so when they put the USB drive into the machine, it's kind of like me being there with the other PC because that one has all the settings in it.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
hmm
All right.
And then you can just put the UDisk, put the thumb drive in the UDisk port and call it up on the controller and run it from the controller.
Yep. And we were able to do that, except I was all sorts out of whack. So I have to put those settings in here because I saved it, but it won't allow me to import it. Because from the drive that I saved it to, because it's looking for that LBSO file, and I have it on the USB drive, but it's not there. It won't allow me to pick it.
You just need to export the whole device profile after you get
I
the
did do
settings, and then just import it on the other computer, and then you're done.
I did do that, but it's not allowing me to do that.
I think you probably need to set up a remote session and have
Okay.
us maybe remote in and have a look at it, because I'm having a hard time following exactly what's happening. It'd be better if we could put our eyes on it.
All right, we'll do that then.
Yeah. That way we can get a good look. We can be on the same page when we're talking about it.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions?
Nope, just
Okay,
learning all about the laser.
gotcha. Okay. You know where that link is, right? You want me to put it in the chat?
Nope, I know where it's at.
All right, awesome. And yeah, we can walk you through that part and see what's going on and make sure your devices are set up and stuff. So,
Got it. Thanks.
sure. All right. Anybody else got anything? Chris is hangry. So, well, I don't have anything new really. It's the same old stuff, just more of it. So,
Oh, on
Let's see.
Laker, can you trim?
yeah.
And
There's
is that the
trim.
Boolean?
No, it's in the node editing. You can trim and extend. There's hotkeys for insert, break, midpoint. There's a bunch of stuff. You can hover over the icon for the vector,
And-
the node editing, and hit the F1 key if you're on a Windows machine, and it'll bring you right to the documentation. But it's
Oh,
got a
there it
list of
is.
all the hotkeys.
Zoom in, zoom out, near, align. Drag, selection. I guess I'm not seeing it. Is it in a toolbar?
Let me
No,
let me
you've
pull it
you've
up.
got to go into node editing, so it's got to be in a path and then go into node editing, and you've got to hover over one of the segments of the node or the point and then press T and it'll trim.
Sorry for being a dumb question, but
That's fine. Node editing is actually quite tricky in most vector graphics. It's not simple like if you're used to it in AutoCAD or
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that. It's a lot less intuitive and a little bit trickier for editing vectors.
And there's a lot of documentation on their site. You can get to it in the help menu. But if you need a session about that too, you can sign up for that too. If you have a hurdle you need to help get over on any of that node editing stuff or anything, or the Boolean functions. So,
nope, I'm just. Nope, I'll figure that out. I'll play around with it a little bit more.
okay. And if you sign up for that other thing, we can take a look at that if we have a minute too. So,
Got it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure, absolutely. Jeremy, how you doing, man?
Staying busy. How about you?
Oh yeah, same here, without a doubt. So, if anybody else has any questions, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that crap was that Cheyenne put on the top of her head.
Is that some thunder swag? Keith
No,
had a
that's-
question he chatted about. He said he got his Nova 51 about a week ago, and when he leveled it, it threw off the beam alignment. Those things are pretty tough. I mean, most machines don't even ship with the tube in them, because they couldn't withstand the stresses that tube would crack. So ours are pretty tough, but could it flex a little bit and get off? Yeah, I mean, it could. It wouldn't hurt to go through the proper alignment just to double check everything.
Brian,
Yeah.
question about the air assist.
Mhm.
Do you, I want to get a compressor, but do you, like you were saying that leave it with the factory stuff till it's up and running and then add on later, right? So do you,
I mean, you could go ahead and get it, but we recommend when you take the machine out of the box, you at least power it up the first time and do a quick test on all of the OEM components just to make sure all the systems function. Because, for instance, if there were a loose wire on the power connector for the exhaust fan, and you go put an Infinity exhaust fan on there first, we may think that you need to plug it directly into the wall and turn the control panel on so that it'll be in the on state when it's energized the next time, when it may be a power problem. So it's best to hook everything up, at least for the first little test, the way it is, and then you can easily just pop the accessories on one at a time, just so you don't add too many variables at once.
Yeah,
Right.
it gives you a baseline of your systems working before you upgrade it.
right.
Yeah, back to Cheyenne's hat. I think I figured out that I think that's a football team that lost to Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl a few times in the early 90s, right?
Hey, it's the bandwagon. It's my hometown.
Oh, it's cold there.
Oh, yeah.
I guess this is the Cowboys year this year. Maybe.
Apply to everyone. What's that?
Is this year the Cowboys year? I mean, he's talking smack, so.
Oh no, I'm not a Cowboys fan. I just that's the only thing I could think of about Buffalo.
Wonder if I didn't get the mirror there. It's possible. Oh, sorry, I was answering a text, a chat thing over here. I get distracted easily. So, trying to think if there's anything else. I never have any backup things because usually it gets rolling eventually. I'll threaten to turn it off a few times and then we'll get into a really good conversation.
I think Robert's hit his 1 year anniversary, hadn't he?
Yeah. We were talking about that video. He did good on that, and he did point out in there that they're going to start putting those drop trays. I don't know if you were on when we were talking about that, Jeremy. I don't know if you jumped on in that time.
I wouldn't.
The 24s don't have drop trays in them, but they're starting to put those in and get those rolling out. So that'll be a good thing for the 24s.
We could always just have Cheyenne do a weekly update from corporate.
Well, that's kind of what this is, and that way she can duck out if she needs to. So, anybody got any questions? All right. Well, I see some new faces on here. So feel free to jump in. This is kind of a relaxed roundtable atmosphere. So, and Keith's got a question about the over travel. Yeah, it's speed dependent. So there probably is a calculation for that buffer because it's being calculated in that controller, but what it is, I have absolutely no idea. He's asking about how much buffer zone you need, when you're raster engraving for the head to, kind of combat inertia or a little bit, at least deal with it a little better, and turning around, making direction changes. And I don't know the math. Yeah, there's probably an answer to it. Chris might know, Jeremy might know, but I don't have enough napkins and enough pens to figure that one out.
Now, one thing that will come into there is it's not necessarily speed setting dependent as much as it is speed reached dependent, right? So if you've got 1,000 millimeters a second, but you only move an inch, right, you're never going to hit your 1,000 millimeters because your acceleration and deceleration, you're still accelerating, when you go into deceleration, so you never hit your top speed, right? But I suspect Mr. Oz would be better suited to explain how Lightburn calculates that because it's doing the calculations in Lightburn and sending it to the controller.
I think he reads RD code like to go to sleep.
So if you pull up your device settings, where you upload the read from controller, you get the maximum speed and acceleration. You don't get the jerk. You got to assume an S curve, but you can do a linear trapezoidal curve based off your acceleration rate. And then add, say, 10, 15%, and that'll get you a dimension of your buffer zone. So if y'all aren't familiar, it's device settings, additional settings, and read from controller. So on my 35, the maximum speed is 1,000 mil. The acceleration is 3,000 millimeters per second squared. So you can do your kinematics equations and figure out if you were doing a direct linear acceleration, deceleration, how long that would be based off the speed you're going. But since it's most likely an S curve, you just got to add a little buffer because the S curve takes a little bit longer to accelerate and decelerate because it's smoother.
All right, did you get that, Keith? There's going to be a test at the end of the call.
He said that's some serious figuring. Yeah, that's why I said I didn't have a stack of paper tall enough for that.
Yeah. And the thing is, in reality, right, is that's great if you're interested in it, right? But it will by no means limit you on doing anything with a laser. It's just if you want to have the more detailed understanding. But yeah, one of the easier ways for your specific issue, right, is to set it up and test it, right? Go in and get you a piece of scrap if you're worried about getting to the edge. I think you said you had a 51-100, right? If you're worried about getting to the edge there and the buffer, go set you up something at, say, 48-inch wide and see if if that's going to be pushing you to the limits, and maybe you need to go to 46 before it gives you enough buffer on each side.
So there's another mode which a lot of people probably don't use. So generally this buffer zone is only an issue for raster style engraves, the fill layers. For your vectors, like somebody mentioned earlier, you won't ever get up to that speed. If you're getting close to the edge, it's going to decelerate and turn your graphics. But there's another layer, it's called offset fill. So if you're getting close to the edge of the machine, but your workpiece is big and you still got to do that fill, offset fill basically does vector style moves to generate a fill style result. Which you
the
can
X-wing.
go right up to the edge of the machine and do that versus a 1,000 millimeter per second raster engrave where you got to have a couple inches of space. So it's the last layer or last mode in each layer setup. It's pretty nifty. I use it also if you're ever doing a raster engrave and you've got a very narrow object. Lightburn doesn't do the best job of calculating the buffer zone time. Like the controller knows it needs the buffer zone, but the Lightburn's estimate doesn't calculate that time. So it'll take you almost 3 times as long to do a narrow, say, border of a picture frame than what the estimate says. But if you do that in a offset fill, it'll just draw that square over and over again, and it's much more accurate and actually faster.
It saves a lot of time.
Yeah, it's probably underused.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I think we need Robert to go ahead and make a video on it because I didn't do the line plus fill much. I'd played with it like one time until I watched Robert's video on that and really like it. So
yeah,
if you're looking for comment, if you're looking for content, Robert, there you go.
He's always looking for content. He's getting his notepad out now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I was on the phone, guys. What was that, Jeremy?
No, Chris was mentioning about the offset fill, right? And
gotcha.
I said, yeah, I've not used it much. I said, maybe Robert needs to make a video. That way we can start using it after we see his video.
Hey, there you go.
He said I hadn't used the line plus offset much until I saw your video and started playing with it a bit more because you just see what the results looked like in your video, and it like I said, it makes it pop. So I've started using it a lot more.
Yep. Gotcha. Appreciate the info.
Cool.
While we're talking about Lightburn, let me ask a question about this. I'm getting ready to make a whole bunch of tags for my shelves for all my inventory, and they're all going to be square. So I was going to just overlap, one edge all the way across the sheet.
hmm
How do you keep it from not cutting the common line in between, like one tag, you cut it down the middle, to separate it. How do you keep that from cutting twice?
Let me get the right screen up here, and where is that? There it is. Screen of monitor 2. Let's see. Can you see that? Okay.
Yeah,
So let's say that we have, oops, let me make it a perfect square. Something like that. And we want to make, I don't know, this many, something like that. Make these spacings 0 so they'll overlap. Why does that look so crazy? Because I got tabs on
Segmented
or something.
lines. Yeah.
Yeah, I probably got tabs on. No, what is that?
It's your segmented line, is it? Your perforation?
It's a fill.
I don't know what you did. You broke it.
Whoa. Oh, it needs to be a line. And then,
Still broke.
oh, wait a minute. That looks like a regular square to me. Get rid of this.
Yeah.
Spacings. Okay, let's try this again. That's crazy.
That's a new feature in 9.25.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if it does the right thing though. Anyway, it's going to be in here in the optimization settings. You can choose
overlap lines a little bit.
Yeah. But you can choose remove overlapping lines. Let me see if it let me see if it previews right. What the heck? Oh, I still have it as a fill. This thing's going insane on me here. Make sure nothing's turned on. It's not. That looks good. Okay, let me play it. Not that fast. Okay, see that one's going back over itself. So let's go in here and choose remove overlapping lines. And then if we look at it in the preview, it won't go over any line twice. It's still not straight lines. It does goofy things with the motion planning, but it won't burn over the same place twice.
But how can you make it so it just goes, instead of doing a square and then doing a step?
Draw them that way in layers probably would be the best way.
Can't you just draw one big solid line?
You can, instead of squares, absolutely. And you could probably join these things together, in the vector editing and stuff. But yeah, drawing straight lines would be better. I was just making a quick thing to show about the overlapping. But in the optimization settings, you can turn it on and off right here. Or adjust your design so that it'll do in the order you want it to do.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I do got another question, Mike Burton, since you had that screen up.
Okay.
What is the difference between, so you got your speed, then you got power max, power min?
Okay. So in line mode, it means something a little different than in fill mode. And the general rule is you want your minimum power to be whatever the max power is, except a few occasions. But in this case, since this is a vector line, what this means is we were talking about traveling. We may say this is going to be set at 500 millimeters per second because we just want to score it. And as Jeremy said, it'll never reach that speed, especially going around these squares. But when it does slow down to make these direction changes, if the head moves at 10 millimeters per second or slower, it's going to use the minimum power. And what that's for is so that when it goes to slow down and it dwells there longer, it doesn't blow out the corners. So you don't lose your definition. It keeps that cut nice and clean. You don't usually need to adjust it unless you see that symptom. So, but that's what it's for.
Yeah, and where I've seen where that becomes a lot more useful is if so a lot of people will say you use line mode for cutting and you use fill mode for engraving. Well, sometimes you want to engrave lines, right? You don't want to cut, but you want to just draw or trace an outline or trace something. That's where you start to notice it, especially when you start getting into intricate details. You'll notice that if you've got them set the same, on your longer lines, they're a lot lighter, and on your smaller, more detailed stuff, it's a lot darker because it's slowing down and burning there. So you have to back off your min power. Now, I would suggest Robert does a video on that, but he actually did a really good video on that already just recently. It's worth a watch on altering your minimum power setting, like keeping your max power setting the same and backing your minimum power in and out to see the effect on it.
Yeah. And then if that were a fill, if that were a raster, then that plays a different role. Normally, this is not taken into account, because when you're doing this stuff, you're just laying down dots. It does come into play when you're using the power scale feature, or
That's
using
what I was about to say. Yep.
Lightburn, or using 3D grayscale, to do a 3D relief depth map or something like that. So there are some times when this does make a lot of difference when you're trying to set up a power scale. Otherwise, it doesn't matter so much. But typically, again, the rule is to keep them the same unless you know you need to do it otherwise. So I think I got that right. But yeah, Robert does have a video about that. Yeah. Let me pop that off. There we go. So, but yeah, if anybody has anything at all, feel free to let me know. Cheyenne, how are things over there?
Good, staying busy. How are you?
So, a little bit busy.
Good.
Up until about 2:45, I'd forgotten that we had to do this today. So I got wrapped up in all my things. Yeah, I'm glad I remembered too. Not recording's one thing, missing the whole thing's another.
Goodness.
Okay, George asked in the chat, and Cheyenne may be better to answer that, about a rough idea how long it takes for it to arrive after you make final payment.
For what machine?
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's dependent.
It's the 51, 100.
Right now it's around mid-August.
And he's saying how long after he makes final payment. So you'll reach out for final payment 2 to 3 weeks ahead, right, of delivery?
Let me have him email me. I'll put my email in the chat.
Yeah, so George, I'm guessing you've got a order in, and you've just gotten a request for your final payment?
I've got an order in.
Okay.
haven't gotten the final request yet, but I know that's coming probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, so my experience was they requested final payment, I think, when it was a week out from being stateside, and then 2 weeks.
Is a week before the machine arrives to warehouse, and it's typically 3 to 4 weeks before delivery.
Yep. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and I put my email in the chat. I don't know if it's sending still or not, but they can absolutely send me an email if y'all want an update.
Awesome.
I'm just trying to work out timing, so I'm in the process now of demolishing the carport. I'm getting ready to go back outside now. And then I have a garage coming into place in 3 weeks.
Gotcha. Yeah, and the company will ultimately call you. I think that's the way it happened with me. Roadrunner brought mine, and they just dropped it and rolled it right in my garage. But I understand that not every situation always isn't quite that smooth. Although I think it probably could be for the most part.
It all depends on the driver, really, right?
Yeah. And some people have, gotten a call that morning, and they're going to be out front in 30 minutes. So sometimes it's getting dropped in people's laps a little early. So I guess that's.
So Keith's question there, in terms of leveling the machine or just running it on wheels, with light pressure on the feet, I run a 51-130 on wheels. Actually, Brian, I think I mentioned when it come in, a couple of my leveling feet, the plastic bits were busted on them, and I was going to follow up on that. I hadn't thought about it again since now. I most of the time my wheels aren't even locked, and it's fine.
Yeah,
it's
mine shakes a little,
beast of a machine.
But My 35 shakes a little bit, but if I lock the casters, that's usually enough. But sometimes I'll let the feet down, but I move it in and out so much, I usually don't put my feet down either. And as soon as we get some of those in, they're lost in logistics space. I'll send you, just tell me how many you need. I'll get with you on that. I'm making
Right.
myself a note so I don't forget.
Yeah, I need to do the same or I'll forget again. Yeah, and on that point, right, you know, I've got a 51 as well, and you know, even running it, we'll say almost the full extent of the bed at in a higher rate of speed, you know, in the 600, 700, 800 millimeters a second, you don't notice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, he said his is, oh, okay, there's a drain, there's a slope, I guess, in the floor for the drain. He said he'd wandered to his neighbor's house.
Yeah, well,
make sure he doesn't keep it.
yeah, I was gonna say you should move in next to me.
So yeah, it should be okay. And these machines, like I said, that question about the mirrors getting out of alignment, I guess it's possible. We've had a few people that had to do alignments. We try not to say it's guaranteed, but most everybody just yanks them out of the box and runs with it. But it could happen. But honestly, for the kind of stresses that those things could possibly see, making it over here, I think they typically come over pretty well. I expected there would be a little more packaging, you know, and there really isn't, but it seems to work. So they're tough.
Yeah, I think a lot has to do with the build quality. Packaging, as you mentioned, is pretty good. Some bits of it could have been better, right? And obviously could be a lot worse, but they come over, you know, considering what you see in freight, especially sea freight. Surprised more of them aren't damaged and busted up. I've not seen or heard of any, you know, catastrophic, you know, hey, this turned up and was completely destroyed either, right? It's only ever minimal damage.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times it's cosmetic. We've had to replace a couple doors and things like that. But we could probably put those things in carbon fiber shells and something would still manage to happen to them. You know, I don't know. So
yeah, I work at a place that has forklift drivers. They'll figure it out. They'll put a hole through a wall, knock down block wall.
Yeah, they swear it. They swear it came with those two holes that look just like forklift forks, right? It came that way, I promise.
Yeah, that's where you pick it up. But yeah, man, I ran a tow motor for years and years and years at this place that did electroplating, and I got pretty good. I could flip a quarter up on the fork and all that neat stuff. Get it up on two wheels. I probably shouldn't say that. I don't think OSHA would like that too much.
Yeah, and Keith, on your comment there, one thing you gotta watch is if you're looking at how well it's aligned based on the red dot pointer, that can be misleading. Yeah, because the red dot pointer goes to a beam combiner. It's not necessarily the same as what your actual main laser beam is. So doing that tape shot, you know, if you're doing it. Other thing is American Photonics makes their little reverse alignment from Mirror 3. I bought one of those with a set of lenses I bought from them, and it makes it a lot easier.
I've got one and I've tried it a few times. I've heard some people say that it's not concentric. When you tighten it down, it shifts a little bit. I haven't tried it too many times on that one. It may have just been the way it was inserted because there's a little flat edge on there. Maybe it was over, you know, on the part side that clamps or something. I'm not sure. Have you seen anything like that? But even if it were, I think it would still be pretty dead on.
I've not seen any issues with it. What I figured out was in looking at it and checking my alignment, right? You know, everything looked fine, worked. Didn't see any issues. When I bought that, I checked it and it seemed to be right, so I left it alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did
I haven't aligned mine, and I've had it 2 years, so that's why I haven't tested that alignment tool yet. Because I don't want to take mine out of alignment to try it. So.
Yeah, well, it's like they always say, if it's not broke, fix it till it is.
Right. Beam was bouncing off the lens tube. Red dot to match the actual. Yeah, okay, so it looks like he waited till the end to dial in the red dot to walk it in at the
Okay.
very end, if I read that right, I think. So, and those red dots, you know, they look funky when they first come out because they don't actually focus till they hit the 2-inch lens. So it's going to look scattered at the front, but if it looks dim or weak, then there may be an indication that it's the red dot pointer. If anybody ever sees where the red dot disappears, but mostly it's alignment. Usually it's going to be the alignment. But we have had a couple of those. No matter how good equipment we try to buy for these machines, it's hard to find one of those red dot pointers that's like super superior quality. Okay. Yeah, I would disregard the red dot altogether because if it's wrong at mirror 1, you're going to be wrong exponentially every next mirror you go. So it's best to don't even think about the red dot until you get your beam lined up, as Jeremy was saying, just using the tape dots and marking those positions. And yeah, it does. He says this is working fine now. I guess you can read. I guess I'm narrating for everybody else. And a lot of people do use that first one. That's why I left it up there, you know, with the red dot, because it's technically not the way the OEM recommends. But most people have decent success with it, so I'll leave it. Reference. Oh yeah. Well, that does make sense, using it as a reference so you can see which way you're moving stuff. You know, using it as that
Absolutely.
kind of a reference. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Another thing, Keith, when you're doing an alignment, right, especially on the 51 or the 63, the bigger machine, right, is if you're out just a small bit, right, that's going to translate to a lot further out. So if you're in the top left corner and you come down to the bottom right, right, if you're off by, you know, a degree or two on the angle of it, it's going to translate over that length a lot worse. So you want to make sure you check it at multiple points.
Yeah. I wish there was an automatic alignment system, little micro servos like you put in lenses and optics, and have it move the mirror mounts around, and that'd be kind of neat. The laser costs $50,000. It'd be $14.99 for the laser, and the rest would be that contraption.
Yeah, you get a Galvo style head for the auto alignment, and then put it on the gantry to get the cut, you know, the diameter and the width and length, right?
Exactly. Just shoot that beam right back at itself and have a receiver in there, line itself right up, just push a button. That would be crazy. Oh, no worries.
Yeah, it only gets better.
Well, does anybody else have any other
Speaking
questions
of
or
Galvo
comments?
heads,
Yeah.
There it is.
Speaking of Galvo heads, any news on the fiber?
Well, someone sent an email out to China to get some better idea on when we can expect them. They're making them. They've probably got them on a container. We just got to see when that container is going to be headed this way. And as soon as we know something halfway concrete about that, you know, we're pretty certain about, then we'll scream and yell and put it all over social media. So I don't know how many. I think they're only going to send 20. The first, but they're, you know, we get containers every week or two. I mean, they're continuous. We're continuously getting containers, so it doesn't take long to get the pipe full, if you know what I mean. And then once they start rolling, we'll be in good shape.
Yep. You started brushing up on EasyCAD, Brian?
No, I haven't. I should.
Yep, it's coming.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I just wing it. So I imagine I'll have a few headaches if what I understand is correct.
It's nowhere near as intuitive as Lightburn. It's
Well, I was used to using like with my G-code machines before I put the cohesion boards in them, you know, using like K40 Whisper and all that stuff, you know, so you had to have everything perfect when you sent it over to begin with. So if it's something like that where you pretty much just have to have your graphic ready and drag it in there and set it up, that won't be too bad, maybe. So the MOPA is the one that I'm going to be intimidated by, is trying to get those colors. If I get a chance to do that, that's really what my end game is. I want to play that. I want to do that.
See, and that's good. I'm more worried about getting the sounds right so you can play music with them.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
You got to tune the frequency so you can play the sounds, not just the colors.
Yeah, there's a guy that plays stepper motors. There's a couple YouTube videos of a guy running stepper motors making music too. And then of course the Tesla coils.
Yep.
Those are my faves.
So one question on the MOPA, for colors, it only gets the color on stainless, right? So the broad, rainbow of colors, right? It'll have a different engraving on, on other metals or plastic where it's more pronounced or different, but it can only achieve the color on stainless, correct?
I think so, just because of that's the way thermal insult looks on that particular material, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one as cool as it is. I don't know how much.
Titanium too.
What's that?
I said it's probably doable on titanium as well, because it tends to discolor with heat.
Mm-hmm. It may. I'm gonna have to start getting some metals gathered up too. To play with some of that stuff. Now, I think also the MOPA, something with the black, you can really dial it in, or there's more of an adjustment, more of a frequency adjustment in the MOPA across that than there is on the standard. I'm not real clear on that though.
Yeah, from the little bit of research I've done, is you can dial in from a lighter gray to a darker black more, and you have a lot more range in the pronunciation of the color there. Yeah, and that was something in doing research I was trying to figure out, for the cost difference, right, to get the MOPA. What was it going to be worth it just for stainless steel? Because how much stainless am I actually going to be using, right? Whether it's a novel idea or not.
Yeah. Yep, they're going to be neat. Everybody's waiting for them. I bet they sell out quick. That's what I thought about Odin though, and Odin didn't fly off the shelves like I thought it would. I guess as a newcomer, as an RF machine, that might have been a little intimidating to the people that have been around the Epilogue and ULS a lot, but I'd put it up against my ULS any day. So hopefully this fiber will be good. I'm sure it's the first, evolution. There'll be improvements just like there are to all of them. So, because the workspace, I've heard things that the workspace is a little small on them, stuff like that, and maybe limited by there's probably a disconnect for the interlocks, for that full cover.
Enclosure, yeah.
Yeah, for the enclosure.
Do you know if the stock or Rotoboss will work with it? If it's going to interface because they have typically a stepper servo, chuck style rotary. But
yeah, I don't know if the driver's on board on that JCP board or whatever that board is or not. It may be external, and I'm not real sure. Okay. Jason's at Rotoboss has been thinking about that. He's got a fiber, with a rotary port. So I don't know if I think he's probably been looking at that.
Okay.
But I don't have the answer. I might be able to find out or dig up something. But yeah, I'm not real sure. That's about all I got.
I got a small topic if anybody would want to discuss it. It's about the rotary. We get a lot of questions about it. Rotary setup. I just want to kind of just ping the group. If you're doing an odd shaped cup, people a lot of times will adjust, the steps or pulses per revolution and the roller diameter when you're trying to manipulate that. And didn't know if anybody wanted to chat about that or not. If anybody's had good success stories or bad success stories. There's been several tickets lately about skewed images or scrunched up images.
Yeah, there's that one where they didn't meet up. You know, when it came around to the backside, those two vectors, they were supposed to be parallel, and it kind of followed the taper a little bit. You remember that one? Was that on a ticket or was that on Facebook? I'll have to look. If it was on a ticket, I'll send you a link to it.
Yeah, if they're doing a tapered cup and they don't have the backstop set up, it can walk.
Mm-hmm.
It's tapered, and so it's going to kind of slide on the wall.
Yeah.
But, you know, as you guys, you know, manipulate your rotary, you know, you got to think in terms of your wheel diameter to your engraving area diameter and the contact area. It almost converts from a roller style to a chuck style. And I'm putting together a spreadsheet, hopefully release here soon, to kind of help you calculate what you would need to do to get, you know, your 10 millimeter square right based off of measurements that you input.
Mm-hmm.
Are you putting pictures in it, Chris?
Yeah, that's the sticking point. I can knock out the spreadsheet. I've got all the math set up. It's drawn
the illustrations.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is yeah, we start talking linear quadratic equations. It's not going to help too many people, right? It's
Yeah.
And that's something, right? Is we're dealing with what is quite complex technology, right? And one of the things that Thunder does very well, and Lightburn does very well, right, is translates it into a very intuitive user interface, right? That allows, you know, people who don't have the firm technical understanding to still be able to use it.
Yep.
And that's the challenge when we get on some of the more complex topics. Is, you know, we don't want to intimidate people to think that they need to understand some of the stuff that's talked about to go use it successfully.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that deal was the spreadsheet. You would put in a couple things, and then it would spit out the target roller diameter. You leave the pulses per revolution alone, and just change the stock roller diameter to get you in the ballpark of a non-stretched image. Now, if you're doing a tapered cup, there's no way around it. You're going to have a little bit of skewing one way or the other. You've got to pick the middle ground. But, you know, if you're doing one of these like wine bottle shapes or, you know, the odd shape ones where the drive area is so much smaller, so much bigger than the engraving area, you really got to manipulate those values to get a decent result. Some things it doesn't matter, right? If it's close enough, human eye won't see it. But some things, if it skews too much, you know, it'll look bad, especially like circles and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Keith had a question he put it in the chat about turning off the machine, and the short answer is yeah, it is as simple as flipping off the switch. Technically, the main power switch supplies power to the laser power switch, which actuates a contactor, which turns on the laser power supply and the chiller. So the only thing on the laser power switch itself is the chiller and the laser power supply, and that's why they're on that contactor, so they can handle that current. And it won't burn that switch up. So I turn my main power on and off normally and just leave my laser power alone. However, the purpose of the laser power switch is so that when you're doing adjustments, or if you don't want to hear your chiller sit there and run, you can leave it off while you're, you know, working in Lightburn and sending over files and putting your material in and autofocusing, that kind of thing, and then just kick it on at the very end. And one reason why is sometimes when high voltage power supplies fail, they can fire. So if you've got your finger underneath your nozzle, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years from now, however long, and your power supply fails, it'll burn you because it'll fire. So it's a good idea whenever you're working around the machine to turn that laser power switch at the very minimum, you know, turn that off. Then of course, if you're in the electronics bays and stuff like that, it's best to de-energize completely and remove it from the wall. But yeah, there's that. I've split my breaker on and off because the e-stop, yeah, that's good. And those are good e-stop switches because I know people use them. On some of those other lasers, they burn up a lot. And I've probably only had 2 warranty conditions on e-stop switches in the past 2 years, which is honestly, I thought that would be a high failure component, but it hasn't been. So yeah, that's also a way to do it.
Just remember, twist to release.
Right. Instead of
no, come
straight
on.
up.
Yeah, pull on it.
You yank on it hard enough, it'll come back up. So,
It helps tremendously.
yeah.
Yeah.
I flipped my whole
Yeah.
breaker off. I've got all of my stuff on one breaker, and I just kick the breaker off. And that way, if it ever fries on me or gets weak, I can just pop a new breaker in. I don't have to worry about switches and contactors and all
And
that.
if you really want to get fancy, you can include one of those ladies that always listens to you, Siri, Alexa, and start automating your power and tell her to turn the laser on and off. But
Yeah. The Internet of Things. So.
yeah.
All right, guys. Well, it's a little early, but only 8 minutes. We pulled another rabbit out of the hat and made a good session out of it. So I couldn't do that without you guys. Does anybody have any last minute questions or comments or anything? If not, I guess I'll cut it off a little early and go check the ticket system. I haven't checked my ticket system in a while. So hopefully Chris has been keeping his eye on it every once in a while. Well, I got nothing major. So let me look at it real quick. All right. Chris, you got anything else, man?
Nah, just keep it going.
Okay, I see your tech support. I'm in there now. I see your thing. So yeah, we'll get you set up and get you squared away on that.
Thanks.
All right. Well, if nobody has anything else, I guess we'll shut her down. And see you guys next week.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. See ya.